Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our podcast. This is our first episode. My name is Mutia. I'm a born Muslim from Indonesia, and this is my husband, Nicholas, a mualaf Muslim or a new Muslim from the US.
Wa alaikum assalam. Together, we're an international married couple navigating faith, culture, and life as Muslims in a world that sometimes doesn't see us through the same lenses.
In this podcast, we'll share our experiences, reflection, and sometimes hilarious moments as we merge two cultures, two perspectives, and one shared faith.
We'll talk about everything from Islamic practices in different parts of the world to marriage, community, identity, and unique challenges that come with being a Muslim couple in the West.
Whether you're a born Muslim, a new Muslim, or just curious about Islam shapes our everyday lives, this podcast is for you.
So grab a cup of tea and get comfortable as we dive into real conversations about faith, love, and life across different cultures. How did you experience your first Ramadan together as a couple?
So should I answer first? Yeah. Okay. So our first Ramadan was last year, right? Like in 2024 as a couple. It was exactly a month after our nikah, which is in February 2024, and then Ramadan was March 2024. That was our first time. And it was interesting because I felt like, to me, we're still like learning about each other. But at the same time, we also need to learn something new together, which is like Ramadan together. We have to wake up very early. I'm still like learning how to be a good istri, a good wife for you, right? Like my mom, like, are you waking up with him? Even though like I was in my period, blah blah blah. But alhamdulillah, like he was very understanding about me that
Mashallah.
I need sleep. And yeah, I was still doing my PhD too at the same time. So
Yeah, we'll get to that question, right?
no, there's no that question. But anyway, like yeah. So and for you, it was your very first time. Like you were 3 months old of being mualaf. So how is that for you?
So I am mualaf, like you said, and I was a new Muslim. So I had only taken my shahada a few months before, like you said. So I was still learning the faith, still adjusting. And alhamdulillah, it was a wonderful experience. I was really focused on memorization, like surahs. I had learned how to pray by then, but just kind of building on that, learning more. And then on the other hand, learning the meaning, the deen, the belief and the practices, right? So that was my main focus. I know something that was important is I was learning what Ramadan is, how to be, a good Muslim during Ramadan. So we were trying to focus on, constantly looking towards the Quran, looking towards the Hadith, mainly watching lectures. And we would also go to Tarawih, which was a new experience for me. It was all a new experience for me. In terms of the area, so setting the scene a little bit, just a week before Ramadan, I had a plumbing accident.
Oh, it was a week before.
Yeah, it was a week before.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm thinking about sharing that too.
You share that too? Yeah. So basically what happened, I was installing a bidet and we had a plastic water connector, water hose or water fitting to the toilet. So I was loosening the nut to install the bidet. I gave it a little too much pressure and it snapped.
It's too strong.
Alhamdulillah. We rushed to, I was like, Istri, come, help me. So you tried to like catch it with a bucket and that wasn't doing anything. And then I eventually got the water turned off. I think it like 2 or 3 minutes. It felt like an eternity. And turned off the water main. And then we had to call like emergency plumbing because it was flooded. The whole bathroom was flooded. There was like an inch of water. And eventually what that led to was the floors being ripped up, the carpets being ripped up down to the wood, and then these loud fans got brought in to like dry it out
for 2 months or
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a test from Allah, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my point of view when we had that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It was an early test for us.
Yeah.
And
so we had to vacate, right? Like we stay at the hotel for a week.
yeah, we tried one night to stay there with the fans.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't deal with it. It was way too loud.
Yeah. It was like huge fan, you know, like a industrial fan kind of. So yeah, I couldn't sleep well, so we moved to hotel, and then eventually we stay at your grandma at Baba.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We stayed with Babas for some time. I'd say one thing good about the hotel that was a blessing was it's my first Ramadan, so
the hotel was like provided by the insurance, so we didn't pay for that, right?
Yeah, that's one thing, and then also it was inclusive, complimentary breakfast.
What do you mean?
Like for suhoor,
Oh,
we didn't have to prepare anything. I could just go grab it.
yeah.
Like bagels, we had boiled eggs, toast, fruit, muffins, coffee ready every morning.
Because at the time last year it was already like spring forward, so like the fajr was around 6:30 something. So usually hotel like already prepared the food like around 6, right? 6 a.m. So we like just get the breakfast from their kitchen.
And one funny story, I don't feel too bad about the plumbing incident because the contractor that I had found, who did a great job, he made the same mistake with that plastic. He ended up on another fitting breaking the plastic and had the same exact issue I had. So that made me feel a little bit better, but it did delay. It was only going to be a month. It delayed it by a whole other month.
Yeah.
So it was until like May when we were back there.
Yeah, so we definitely like spent our couple months of marriage learning about each other, being tested.
Yeah.
Mashallah, it was like interesting experience, right?
Yeah, I was working at the warehouse and we would drive from, where we were staying. I would drop you to campus because you were finishing your PhD. I would go to work, and then after work I'd come and get you. And then sometimes we'd stay on campus because I was also doing my master's program at the time. Or sometimes we would just go straight home. And then some nights, not every night, we went for tarawih. Mm-hmm. And that was a nice experience.
Yeah. It was when we were still in Ohio, right? Like now we're in Illinois, which is different story that we will share later.
So one final story before we get off this question is we did end up going on vacation.
Oh yeah,
if you remember.
We were in California.
Yeah, we went to the West Coast to visit my family, non-Muslim family.
It was still during Ramadan, right?
Yeah, it was during Ramadan. I was able to find a local masjid for Juma, but other than that, I didn't spend too much time at the masjid. Mostly, I think, enjoying the time with family, enjoying the weather. Didn't spend, I feel like I didn't get as much knowledge gained or focused on the deen when I was there. So, one thing we also did have to do, we had to really plan food out to make sure that, we're ready to eat at the Airbnb for suhoor, or I'm ready. I think you weren't fasting at that time.
Yeah, I was not.
So overall, the experience was really nice, but we kind of came to the conclusion that we likely won't visit non-Muslim family during Ramadan again, or non-Muslim friends, just because it's a community event, working on your deen. It's a good time to focus on the Quran, and it didn't feel like that would be a great experience for our relatives when we come to visit and, we're focused on these other things. Were there any challenges or surprises you have faced during that first Ramadan?
The first Ramadan, Not really, because I've been living in the US for the past 4 years, and prior to that, I was in South Korea. So I was already live in a non-Muslim country for the past 6, 7 years. So I already experienced how to be a minority doing my Ramadan in non-Muslim country. Um, but I think more into when we live together, a lot of interesting things happen. Not necessarily about us. It was just like, the plumbing problem, and then we had to like live in a hotel for a week, and then move to our grandma's house, and then went for traveling. It's just a lot, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you?
For me, it was. We'll talk about it later, but the fasting wasn't too difficult. I was a new Muslim, so all the same, adjustments that a new Muslim would make, was facing. Finding the time for prayer, learning as much as I could, but not overwhelming myself, and just adjusting to my new lifestyle.
I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. What do you think?
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this right now and enjoying it, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can catch our next episode.
Yes, and if you're on YouTube or other platforms, you can also leave a comment or review, so it will help other people to find our series as well.
Terima kasih. Thank you. What are the biggest differences in how Ramadan is observed in Indonesia versus the US?
I think because Indonesia is a Muslim majority country, so obviously the vibes and the ambience is definitely different than the US, especially because we live in a small town here in Illinois. It's maybe like if we are like in bigger city like Chicago or New York, maybe it will be like quite similar to Indonesia, but yeah, like because yeah, it's just different. In Indonesia, masjid are everywhere, so you will hear adhan like 5 times a day, and then everyone goes to tarawih every night, and we have like Indonesian traditions around Ramadan, which I think we're gonna discuss later. But alhamdulillah, like I'm not complaining. I like being here, like in the U.S. Um, and yeah, and I know that Allah will reward their believers, their servant, based on their
Inshallah.
effort, based on their process of doing it, like the good deeds that we're doing, inshallah. So like, yeah,
Okay.
no complaint.
How does the social atmosphere change during Ramadan in each country?
I think there's not much different, honestly. Like working hours, wise, like we still work 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 in Indonesia, and but now because we live in the northern part of the world, I don't know what do you call it? Northern hemisphere.
Hemisphere?
Hemisphere. Okay. And yeah, like the time is now getting shorter to fast in the US, right? Why are you smiling? But in Indonesia, the Eid is like a national holiday, so like we don't need to ask for days off. But here you have to like ask for days off, otherwise or times off if you want to go for Eid prayer. Otherwise, you couldn't go. But yeah.
Okay.
What about you? Like, how was anything that you notice about social atmosphere?
I spent 10 days in Indonesia, and I would say something that I did notice, and honestly, in many Muslim majority countries, it seems, or at least Muslim communities, there is a whole values difference in what's important. There is this concept of individualism versus communal like mindset, and with the US it's very individualist, very kind of selfish, and a little bit isolationist, where everyone fights for themselves. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps. In Indonesia, it feels like a more community presence and a lot more support, a lot more expectation for the community to gather around you. So I felt very welcome in Indonesia, and most parts of the US I feel very welcome as well. but just a different atmosphere.
Yeah.
What are some unique cultural traditions related to Ramadan in Indonesia?
Wow, very formal questions. The way you read it was
Right.
like a anchor.
What are some unique cultural traditions related to Ramadan in Indonesia?
So we have these traditions called munggahan and ngabuburit. Can you say munggahan?
Munggahan,
And ngabuburit.
ngabuburit, ngabuburit.
Yes, ngabuburit. It's a more kind of West Javanese tradition. So Sundanese ethnicities traditions, but in some area they call ngabuburit as well. Although it's like actually a Sundanese language.
Munggahan?
Munggahan also Sundanese language. It has a meaning like munggahan is like the stem word for it is munggah, which is like level up or goes up because it was like from Sha'ban to Ramadan month. So
what do you do for Munggahan?
munggahan is happen before Ramadan, so you gather together with your family or close friends to have like feast, eat together. We actually went for munggahan with my friends here in Illinois, with other ibu-ibu as well. We ate like nasi. What is that called again? Timbal? No.
Is that the thing where you had the banana leaf on the ground?
Yeah, we ate like on banana leaves on the ground. It was tasty. It was mashallah. It was really good. Like other people's cook it. I didn't cook anything. Well, I cooked something like
You brought something.
I cook lumpia.
Yeah,
Lumpia
lumpia.
goreng. But anyway, munggahan. Other than like you have feast with close friends and families, you also actually went to cemeteries of your relatives, like clean their cemeteries, sending prayers to them, and clean the house to get ready for Ramadan. And yeah. And for ngabuburit, this is something that I really like.
What is it?
Ngabuburit.
Ngabuburit.
So burit is downtime.
Okay.
Like almost goes to sunset.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like that's when you go jalan-jalan.
Walking around. Yeah.
Walking around, getting some takjil. Takjil is sweets, dessert, like kind of in some you can also call it appetizers to break your fast. For example, the one that I like is kolak pisang.
Kolak pisang.
It's
What's that?
banana in soup, like sweet soups of coconut milk and brown sugar. And sometimes you also have this
Martabak manis.
martabak manis.
I know
And
that.
yeah, kolak pisang is what I really like. I haven't made it.
Kolak pisang.
Pisang.
Pisang
Yeah, banana
with a G.
with the G. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's like some traditions I like to celebrate in Indonesia during Ramadan. And I believe like there are other type of these kind of traditions around Ramadan in different part of Indonesia, and it calls with different names. So if anyone knows about that, like leave
Put
a
it
comment.
in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah.
As for the U.S., again, this is my second Ramadan. So in terms of cultural traditions, it's kind of a mixed bag here. I noticed there's a lot of different unique cultures represented. So something that I've noticed at a few masjids, they'll do community iftar to share, food. They might do a potluck style dinner or something like that. But beyond that, I haven't noticed any specific Ramadan cultural traditions outside of the basic, go for tarawih. I haven't experienced that yet. Except sometimes we'll go pengajian around the year, not specifically for Ramadan.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
If you did enjoy the episode, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. And wherever you're listening to this, please give us a rating and review. It really helps us reach a wider audience. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.